Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Critical Thinking. Today we're going to look at categorical logic, right? So we're shifting gears a little bit. Hopefully you got propositional logic down, at least to the level that we took it, which is, it's something to be able to look at these equations over here and be able to make heads or tails of them. So if you're kind of getting that, pat yourself in the back. Now we're going to learn a different kind of logic, categorical logic, and it's similar to propositional logic, right? These are deductive arguments, and we're trying to figure out if they're valid or not. And again, valid means if the premises are true, the conclusion must be true. It's logically impossible to have true premises and a false conclusion. There's different ways of putting it, but they all mean the same thing. Valid arguments, when you put true premises into them, they only produce true conclusions, right? So we're gonna find those kinds of things with categorical logic as well. Before I get started, I just want to let you know there's going to be a class exercise, just like we used to have in class, but now you'll do it right underneath this video. And you can do it while you're watching the video and pause it, or you can watch the whole thing and then do it. And you'll submit it as a discussion post. It's going to be anonymous. No one else will see it but me. So no one's going to copy you and you can't copy anyone. All right, you're just going to submit your answers to the exercises, and they'll be pretty basic exercises like they usually are. It's just meant to keep you engaged and, trying to make sure that you understand every little thing right from the get-go. So today we'll have two sets of exercises, and I want you to submit both of them in a single post, right? So maybe you want to watch the whole video first. You can also just go to the Prezi itself and go to the exercise page, right? You can do it however you want, but just know in this section today, there's going to be two sets of exercises, and you should do both of them as a discussion post right underneath this video. Okay, well, let's get started. Categorical logic. Let's see. There we go. So in propositional logic, you used these four operators, right? You got to know what they meant, and then once you understand what they mean, then you're able to check for validity for any arguments that use those operators. So we did that, but there's other types of valid arguments as well. Right? Look at this one. All humans are mammals. No mammals are cold-blooded creatures. Well, what follows from that? If it's true that all humans are mammals, and they are, if it's true that no mammals are cold-blooded creatures, I'm not sure. There might be exceptions to that, but we're just asking the question if it were true. Right? If it's really true that all humans are mammals and mammals, none of them are cold-blooded, well, then it would mean that no humans are cold-blooded either. Right? So that's a perfectly valid argument, but it's not using those operators. I guess it's using no, but it's still a very different kind of argument than the ones that we've looked at. Right? What about this one right here? Some humans, and now I'm saying some humans are cheaters. All cheaters are liars. Well, what follows logically from that? Some humans would have to be liars, right? If it's true that some humans are cheaters, and cheaters, just by virtue of being cheaters, are also liars, well, then it would follow that some humans have to be liars. Right? A valid argument. Okay. Another one. All professors are boring people. No boring people are likable people. Therefore, what follows logically, unfortunately, no professors are likable people. Again, you don't have to worry whether the premises are really true. Remember, we're checking for validity. That's a matter of form rather than content. So we're just asking the question, if those premises were true, would the conclusion have to be true? Or another way to put it is, could the conclusion be false even though we accept both of the premises? In this case, the answer is no. So it's a valid argument, right? The conclusion logically follows from the premises. So they're all valid, but they don't really use those operators that we're used to so far, right? The conjunction, disjunction, conditional, and negation. It does use negation, but it's slightly different from how we're used to it. what they do is each of those arguments, they use statements about groups or categories of things. And we use different words here. Groups, categories, sometimes people call them classes or sets, right? I like to just use ordinary language for the most part, if I can. So we can just call them groups or categories, right? It's talking about humans and mammals and cold-blooded creatures and liars and cheats, professors, boring people, likable people. You can imagine a group or a category as just imagine you put all the humans together and you put a big circle around them. That's the class or the set or the group or the category of all humans or all mammals or all cold-blooded creatures. Right? So these kinds of arguments make statements about categories or groups of things. The statements they're either about all members of the group, some members of the group, or no members of the group. Right? So, for example, take the statement, all humans are mammals. It's basically saying that all members of the group, humans, they're also members of the group or category of mammals. Right? And that's true, right? So if you imagine a huge circle around all the mammals, imagine all the mammals together in one big group. That would be very bad right now. It's exactly what we're trying to avoid, but we can do this in imagination. Group all the mammals together. What are you going to find within that group? You're going to find the entire group of human beings. Right? The entire group or category of humans is going to be right inside of that category. That's what that statement is saying. Right? It's basically saying all the members of the class of human are also members of the class of mammals. What about some humans are cheats? Well, that's saying that there's some members of the group humans are also members of the group cheats. Right? So you can imagine a group where you put all the cheats. Well, some of those members are also human beings, right? Probably all of them. I don't know if there's any animal cheaters. I think there might be in the animal world. Some animals do use deception to get what they want. So it's maybe a large group, but it certainly includes some humans, but not perhaps all, hopefully. No professors are likable people. Now here we're making a statement about none of the members, right? None of the members of that group, professors, are in that club of likable people, right? So again, all, some, and none. So categorical logic is just about making valid inferences with all those kinds of statements about groups and categories of things. And really, there are just 4 basic kinds of category statements you can make. So just like in propositional logic, where you just have to learn 4 operators and how they work, and then everything comes out of that, right? These 4 basic building blocks, and once you get those, you can do it all. Same thing here. So there's going to be 4 kinds of statements that you will have to be able to identify, but they're really simple, and there's only 4 of them. So here they are. Right. You can have a statement of the form all S are P. So for example, all humans are mortal beings. Having a beer. All SRP, right? So you can imagine other statements just like that, right? It's where you're saying something positive about all the members of a group. Or you can say no SRP. For example, no politicians are honest people. Well, sometimes people say that. It's probably not entirely true, but it's just an example, right? You can see the format there. We're saying that none of the members of the group of politicians are members of the group of honest people. No SRP. Or we can say some SRP. Some people are hard workers. Right? Some people are not, but there's some that are. So we're talking about the members of a group, right? In this case, the group is people in general. We're saying that some members of that group are also members of the group hard workers. And finally, the 4th basic kind of categorical statement is some S are not P. For example, some citizens are not taxpayers. Right? There are members of the group or category of citizens who are not members of the group or category of taxpayers. Okay, so 4 basic kinds of statements. And this is going to be really the foundation for doing categorical logic. Okay, so this is all you're going to really ultimately deal with. You can say tricky things like no S are non-P, yeah, but that's really just another way of saying that all S are P, right? So they all are ultimately going to boil down to one of these 4 statements. Yeah. And they, of course, they get fancy names. We like to do that in philosophy and logic. Statements of the form all S are P, we call them universal affirmative. Universal because we're talking about all S's in the universe, right? All of them. Universal. All S's. Affirmative is because we're saying something affirmative or positive about all the members of that class. We're saying that they're all P. Right? Or you can have a universal negative, right? We're talking about all the members of the group of class of X and saying that none of them are in the group P. Universal negative. I could say about some S's that they are P's. Right? You could say some people are hard workers. Then we're making a particular affirmative statement. We're not talking about all the members, just some of the members, and we're saying something positive about them. But over here, now hopefully you can see the pattern. You know what's coming next, right? If you have a universal affirmative, universal negative, then you have a particular affirmative and a particular negative, right? We're talking about some members of the group of S, the class of X, the category of S, and we're saying that they're not P. We're saying something negative about them. Right? So that's really it that's the foundation here. Now we haven't gotten into arguments at all yet, of course, but I think it's nice to know that everything that we're going to do is going to rely on these 4 kinds of statements, right? So just wrap your head around those. And as practice, here's one of the exercises that you're going to do. Some unicorns are fickle creatures. Is that a universal affirmative, universal negative? Is it a particular affirmative or a particular negative? Well, just go through each of these statements and then look up here to see what they match. Right? So you'll hopefully quickly be able to identify all 4 of these. I'm going to pause this for a second. Not for you, because I realize you could pause it yourself. It won't look like a pause to you. It looked like I've just disappeared for a second. Okay, and I'm back. I realize it's not going to look like I disappeared at all. All right. It'll just look like a slight jump or something. Okay, so do these exercises either right now by pausing, but not submitting it yet because you want to do that exercise, the other exercise, all in the same post, okay? So however you want to do this, but make sure you do this exercise and the next one all in the same post. Okay, so just to recap so far, not much, but just so you get what's important about this. What's important to realize here is that we can make deductive arguments, just like we did in propositional logic. We can make valid deductive arguments using these kinds of statements, right? They're all about all, some, no kinds of statements. But if we throw in we're not throwing anything in. Wrong choice of words. Forget I said that. We can do that, and we can make these 4 basic types of categorical statements, right? So they're all going to be all, some, or none, but then they're going to say something either positive or negative about each of these, okay? Okay, so moving on. So that's your sort of intro to the intro of categorical logic. Basically, all arguments in categorical logic conform to these categorical statements that can be either universal affirmative, universal negative, particular affirmative, or particular negative. Okay. So to continue on with the introduction, and that's all we're going to do today. We're almost done here. We're just going to have a little bit of vocabulary, just some basic vocabulary that you should know so we know how to talk about this stuff. So let's take any sort of random categorical statement, the kind of statement that we use in categorical logic. All doctors are graduates, right? That's true, at least recognized medical doctors, right, have to graduate with a degree. I was worried for a second that some people might read this as all doctors are graduates, like I made a mistake or something. But then I realized it'd be weird if I assume you're all high school graduates. It'd be weird if you were a graduate without knowing what a graduate is. So this says all doctors are graduates, right? All members of the group doctors are also members of the group people who graduated. And the subject here, what it's talking about is doctors, right? That's the main subject of the sentence. So if you're looking at this grammatically, you call this the subject. We do the same thing here. Doctors here is the subject term, the thing that we're talking about. So there's a vocab word, subject term. It's the first part of the categorical statement. It's the thing that we're talking about, that we're saying something about all doctors. And that makes graduates the predicate term, right? We're predicating of doctors that they are graduates. A predicate term is something that says something about something else. Right? Predicates say something about the subject. The subject is what the sentence is about. So there's two technical terms there that you should remember. Right? So all of these statements are going to have a subject term and a predicate term. And it's pretty easy to tell what they are, even if this is new territory for you. If these words sound intimidating, it's really pretty simple. Right? And then one more piece of vocabulary, the word are here, that's called the copula. Right? You can tell copula, root word for the word copulate, right? Which comes from the idea of putting things together. Right? In this case, it's groups of things, right? We're saying something about the relationship between the group of doctors and the group of graduates. And the copula is joining those concepts in a way. In a particular negative statement, right, the copula is are not. Remember, particular negative statements, some S are not P. There we call are not the copula. It's still saying something about the relationship between the two classes or groups of things. Here, this might make it a little more clear. Right? So here I've put a universal affirmative, a universal negative, a particular affirmative, and a particular negative categorical statements, just particular examples of each of those. And then you can see how it breaks down in terms of the subject, the copula, and the predicate, right? So all the ones in brown, these are the subjects of the sentence. That's what the sentences are about. Right? And everything in blue, these are the predicates. That's what we're saying about the subjects. We're saying something about them, right? And the copula is what joins these two different groups. Shows us what the relationship is between them. And in this case, it's a negative relationship down here. All right, so you get that, hopefully, right? I think that's pretty clear, since all of the statements that we're going to look at are going to look something like this, or they can be rewritten to look like this. They're all going to very quickly show what their form is, and you're going to be able to tell, well, everything right here, right after the quantifiers, the all, no, some, right after that, that's going to always be the subject, and the predicate's going to come last. The subject is what the sentence is about. The predicate is the thing that's describing the subject in some way. Okay. And that is it for the lesson. I'll leave you with these exercises right here. All you need to do is go through and identify the subject term and the predicate term. This should be really easy, but it's just to get in your head what subject and predicate mean, so that going out from here, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so next time we're going to get right into it, and we'll start showing how to diagram these categorical statements with neat little circles. First, we'll start with sentences, just show how to diagram any one of these sentences using two circles. And then to evaluate arguments, all we need to do is add a third circle, and then we'll be able to show whether or not a particular categorical logic argument is valid or invalid. And it's going to be really easy. It'll show up in the diagram itself. Just by diagramming the premises, if it's a valid argument, you'll see the conclusion just appear like magic. Maybe not like magic, but I think it's kind of cool like that. It's a very visual way of showing that with a valid argument, if you've got the premises, you already have the conclusion, right? That's what we mean by it's not logically possible to have the conclusion be false in a valid argument if the premises are true. And we'll be able to see that visually. Okay, that's it for now. Hope you enjoy your night. And of course, email me with any questions if anything was not clear. Just to reiterate one more time, do both of the exercises that we had here, post them as a discussion post underneath this video. It'll be anonymous, only I will see your answers. And this counts as classwork, in-class work, just like we've been doing all semester, but now we're doing it in this context. All right, bye-bye. Cheers.